Okay, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it's Sunday, August 9th. It's 11:30 in the morning. As you can see, I am still running Linux and I'm using OBS. I only have one of my cameras, and that's the C920 hooked up. And for some reason, every time I change my configuration, the video from this right now is not the way I like. So I guess I will be, after I'm done with this, I'll hook in addition to this, I'll hook up my Brio camera. Uh, it will give a better picture, I think, and wider field of view. Uh, Now, as you know, I've formatted even my install of accidentally or of Mint. So I don't have everything set up like I did before. Because I also been going through changing my phone numbers on various sites, the pharmacy, doctor's offices, and all that kind of stuff. Haven't got that done yet. So, the video's not what I want. The audio sounds good. I tested it for a little bit. Might be better if I could. There is just no room on this desk. Might be better if I could get the microphone over here or underneath the. I could do that. I guess since the camera here is right now, put the microphone underneath it. Well, let me update you on a couple of things. I think I already told you about the doctor's office, the cardiologist, and that I'm going to have a new battery put in my pacemaker November 5th. I think I told you about formatting my computer and installing and uninstalling and formatting and installing. Then I mentioned to you, I think in the last video, that from Google Fi, I ordered their kit to get Google Fi service. You can get Google Fi service with Google phones, the Pixel phones, and a selection of certain other phones. You can get their internet or their service for your cell phone or other device, And luckily, my Motorola telephone, my Motorola cell phone, this is the Power, Motorola G Power, is one of the approved non-Google cell phones that you can get the service on. So I was using Mint service. Let's see, do I have? No, I don't. I don't have I didn't pull their. So I had service with them. I was happy with the service and the cost and everything like that. Except you have to pay for 3 months at a time. And you pay a little bit more because you're paying for if you pay for an entire year. But I was paying for 3 months at a time. And, but I was okay with the cost and what have you. But I wanted to go with Google Fi. So I went to, the Google Fi place rather than going to Amazon and just downloading for $10, this, and I actually went to the Google Fi and ordered their thing, which was free, the SIM card. And they didn't have me go through and sign up or anything. Of course, they know who I am. I have a Google telephone service, and I have, I'm signed up, so we all are, I think. You have a Gmail account or whatever. So I went there, and I clicked, and they just automatically sent me no charge, the Google, chip. And then I told you that the other day that FedEx left a message. Left the tracking thing or whatever. I was concerned when it was FedEx delivering. I have bad luck with them. Anyway, they left a message saying that they had left it at the door. And of course, we didn't get it. So I called Google Fi, because that's who I ordered it from. And as I was talking to them, they've been really, I've called them a couple of times. They've been really nice, really great. And anyway, I called and I said, I have bad luck with FedEx. I said, it was free. You all shipped it, it was totally free. I said, I wouldn't mind paying a few dollars if I could have it, if it slip it into an envelope and just, send me one. Not by FedEx. And the person said, well, you can buy it at Best Buy, or you can order it at Amazon and pay $10. As soon as you sign up for the service, you get a credit for that $10. I said, I'll just do that. And so I did that, and I think was it yesterday? I think it was. At the door was a package. I thought that it was the delivery, because that was that was a delivery for Amazon. They said that the tracking and everything was supposed to come yesterday. And so I opened it up and put the chip into my cell phone, and followed the instructions, and it said to install their app. So I installed the Google Fi app, downloaded from the store, I think, the Google store, I think, if I remember correct. And it popped right up, said, do you want to keep your phone number or do you want to get a new one? Ever since cell phones were invented, I have always picked get a new number, never to use the same number, because But I thought, okay, well, this is, so I picked my number, the one I had, and so then, I entered the number and pressed the next or whatever. And then it said, okay, remember I had Mint service. Then it said, okay, we need the T-Mobile account number, the T-Mobile this, the T-Mobile address, or whatever. I thought, okay, this is not going to be good. So, of course, I went to the Mint site. No mention of T-Mobile, none of the information that I needed. They just had Mint stuff. They had a nice menu. All kinds of data and everything. Nice menu, nice information. Nothing about any T-Mobile. And I looked around. So anyway, then I called them. I hate calling anybody on the telephone, voice, and I called them, and they said, oh, they were very nice. Well, we'll help you. And I explained what the situation was, that I had ordered the Google Fi SIM card and put it in. Oh, well, by the way, let me go back a little bit. When it sent me to this thing for, okay, we need your T-Mobile, this and that. Oh, crap. So I went back and tried to run the software, the app, without, and to pick, I tried to pick a new number, but there was no way to. Whenever I started it up, it immediately popped up with the number that I had, my old number. I uninstalled the app, reinstalled the app. When I started it up, it popped up with my phone number, with the phone number. So anyway, I called up Mint. And they said, oh yeah, we'll be very happy, And I said, well, here's the information I need. Well, we're Mint, not T-Mobile. And I said, I know that. When I signed up with you people, immediately it showed on my phone that, my provider was T-Mobile, blah, 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 blah. But we're Mint, we're not T-Mobile. And I said, but on my phone, as soon as I had in the past signed up with your service, that's what it showed. Well, we use their cell towers sometime, but we're Mint, we're not T-Mobile. I said, thank you very much. I'm just going to go and see if Google Fi can help me. They said, oh, okay, good, So I called into Google Fi, and they immediately, okay, so before I did that, or at some point before when I had this problem of my number, my old number, popping up there when I started it up, I erased, I went back and left it blank. That didn't work. It popped up immediately with my, and anyway, I just entered in all ones in there, and then I got a thing that popped up on the screen. It's not your fault, but our system has crashed here, and not to be concerned. And I forget, there's this message popping up, not to be concerned. But then I noticed that the thing said something, like Google Fi it'll be. I had Google Fi installed. I could go to various places there, but I didn't have. I tried calling out, and I had it would not call another. And I tried calling my old number. That didn't work. So anyway, I called Google Fi and told them, and immediately they said, okay. And I forget if they hit something at their end, or if they had me log into a different. I think they just hit something at their end. No, I know what it was, yeah. Well, they said, what, I said, I don't care about my old number. I just want service. Give me a new number. And they said, okay, what's your area code, or area code for the phone. First three numbers. And I gave them the number for Fort Worth. And then immediately it popped up on the screen, is this number, the person said, okay, I'm going to go see if a number's available. And then on the screen popped up in that place the number. Is this the number, that you will accept? And I clicked yes. And then the gentleman said, okay, you're all set. And sure enough, I was. And so I have now Google Fi on my cell phone. Oh, by the way, then I went to Mint and looked for a whole long time. They have a big, nice site, whole bunch of stuff. I went to Mint. There was no way to cancel. There was nothing that says end your account. You can stop paying, which I did. I clicked, no longer take out of my bank account. That's fine. And I looked at more all over. No way to say cancel the service. And so I went and removed the bank information and the credit card information, the numbers and everything from their account. So that's blank. Still no way to cancel the thing. It's one of those places, I guess, they'll keep the data, and if I pop this a month from now or 6 months from now or a year, pop their old SIM card into something, then they'll probably be, oh, okay, welcome. So now I'm using Wi-Fi, or the Google Fi. I think I may have made a mistake because I didn't pay enough attention, The Mint deal was you pay for 3 months at a time. And now just before while I was waiting for the Google Fi card to get here, they sent out a thing, and I think they had a special, like if you paid for the entire year, you saved $130 or something like that. Really good deal. But anyway, so when I come over here finally to look at this, I don't think that's is that the price I got? I haven't paid anything yet. They're going to bill me, So I'm not saving. I'm not going to be saving a lot. And if I used a lot of data, see, I almost never leave the house. I'm here all the time, never leave the house. I go to a doctor's appointment. That's it. So I've noticed that with the data with Mint that I'm using, because I use Wi-Fi when I'm in the house, the amount of data that I used was bottom of the scale. You couldn't even see it. So, but I don't know, maybe I made a mistake. But so far I'm going to, after everything I've gone through, because see, I've had unlimited service in the past with, I've never paid $70 a month. But Google Fi, if it has a lot of features, and if you're somebody who uses your phone, say you're a truck driver or somebody who's driving around all the time, or if you're somebody who leaves the United States and goes to other countries, and there's a benefit, well, for the driving around or or whatever. Apparently the way Google Fi works is they have a deal with T-Mobile and Sprint. I'm not sure if it's Sprint or three of the big companies. So your phone, if say you were a truck driver over the road and and you're using your cell phone and you have a problem as you travel, you have one, Sprint or T-Mobile, and sometimes you get into areas where what this does is this is set up with three, forget which three they are, and your phone will automatically switch to whichever is the best service without you having to do anything, without you being interrupted. You won't even know it. It is just switched. And then the thing about the international, which I've only been out of the United States one time in my entire life, and that was to Mexico. I guess normally somebody goes to a foreign country, you go to Thailand, and you have to buy a chip, or a thing for your cell phone to put it in, and use it there. But then if you're there for 3 days and then you're traveling to Hong Kong or Vietnam or something, then you need to get it one when you get there. And if you have just a regular cell phone service and you go to a foreign country, you're paying roaming charges or whatever they call that, which in these foreign countries you could spend like a week in France, and using your cell phone and your cell phone service in the United States, and I think get a bill for like $3,000 or something for service. So that's why you go there and get a chip for your thing. With Google Fi, you pay a little bit for, you don't have to change in a new chip or whatever. When you go to some foreign country, you just use it and you pay a small amount of money for phone calls, that you make, a small amount. But I don't go to any foreign countries, Let's see. $10 for gigabytes. Now see down here it says data is free after you use 6 gigabytes. So it's okay, it tells you here, I don't have to do the math, that that could be $80 a month. Now see, I should be paying, I guess it's going to be, I think $20 a month, plus $10 per gigabyte for data. I'm not sure if it's going to be 20 or 30 by that, but I think I might have made a mistake. But I'm going to stick with it. My cell phone, my Motorola G Power. I just very recently got it, and I paid $250 for it. It's now on sale for $150. I'm not sure if the Motorola, I think it is, the Motorola Stylus, I think also is on sale. That's the one I wanted. But at the time, I just couldn't pay the extra 50 or something, or I didn't want to. So, yes, I do make some bad decisions financially. So what else? Somebody left a comment wanting to see my setup here. So maybe later today, there's not that much, but I mean, it's nothing special. But I'll take my camera around and show the back of the monitor and the back of the computer, and I've got one of those LED lights up there that I got, that I told you all about that. Very inexpensive. Well, let's see if we can raise this up here and see. There we go. Got it on a tripod. Could be mounted on a camera also, you know, because it has a thing on the bottom of it that'll fit a tripod. I guess well, let's go back to the news. Remember when the Republicans, for 8 years, they went crazy that President Obama was using executive orders, and what was he thought he was a czar, and he was just doing this and this and this. And then, I mean, they just carried on about it every day on Fox News and places like that. And then President Trump comes in, and he thinks that he's a king, and he's writing executive orders that are just insane. That no way that he has the authority to do that, totally unconstitutional. And he just keeps, doing it. And then even when the news media ask him a question, he'll say that he says I'm the president and I have unlimited authority, and and then when they say, well, Mr. President, do you think that's, that seems to be contrary to what powers you have, and he'll say, let them sue me and take me to court, and he just unhinged. And now we haven't been hearing anything about the prompters. Remember, during the 8 years that Obama was president, Fox News and Republicans just carried on like, man, President Obama was using a teleprompter. He has a teleprompter that he looks at. He has and of course, Trump came in and started immediately using a teleprompter. And I don't think he is as much now, because he's unhinged. And his staff would love for him to be able to, if they could prepare the thing and have him read it. I don't think he is using a teleprompter, because it's amazing how bad he is at reading off of a teleprompter. But and this thing of President Trump being, having a news conference, and then somebody asks him a question, and he just gets angry and just walks out. That's childishness. That's, a president should be able to handle situations like that, but it's like he thinks that how dare you question me? And he lies constantly, all the time. I don't think hardly any truth ever comes out of his mouth. I'd like to see if he can make it one day. He ought to just do it. He didn't have to tell people. He just ought to take one day when he's planning on doing a few things other than playing golf. Although, of course, we all know, we've heard the stories that he cheats at golf. He's all the time, every time. It's strange behavior. But he should just try it one time. One day, wake up and say, I'm not going to lie at all for one day, and just see what would happen. Or if he could go one day without, putting something on Twitter, I don't think he can do that. It's, and I would like to see, just to see what would happen, I'd like to see Twitter just cancel his account for one day. But it would be, I don't know what would happen. I mean, he might have some type of, that would be bad, you know, if they decided, let's just screw with this old guy, you know. And if he had a stroke or something, you know. But two, it would be sort of interesting, except it'd be kind of scary. You know, he is President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of the military. If Twitter turned off his account, especially if they didn't, you know, if they did it, he'd go insane if they did it. But I mean, if they said, well, it's just turned off for one day, he'd still go insane. He'd go insane. It goes off for 5 minutes. But it'd be less, you know, if they said for one day we're turning off your Twitter account. Of course, he'd immediately go to the White House account, but it'd be interesting to see what would happen. I mean, we see these things on the news. Somebody attacks somebody else in a store for not wearing a mask, or somebody goes into a store and is met at the door by the staff saying, oh, you have to wear a mask, and they attack, you know, the store employee, and just on and on. We see these, that sets these people off. And so like I told you before, I realized, I'm repeating myself on this, back in the 1980s, I think it was, maybe the late 1970s, I worked for a guy, he was director of security at a hospital, and I worked for him. And he was very smart, very articulate. Retired military with disability, an officer. Well, of course, part of this I do know he was, but one, he could not handle people. And I wasn't in the military, and I thought, well, maybe, you know, he was an officer and he just never had to, you know, be a squad leader, or, you know, and because he positively could not handle little tiny situations. But like I did 4 grievances through the hospital grievance procedure, and he lost all 4 of them, and he was much smarter than I was. And he went, I joked with him, I teased him a few times, and he immediately did not know that I was teasing him, and he went ballistic, screaming at the top of his lungs for me to get out of his department, and he could do whatever, you know, he wanted to do. And then he went running immediately to the personnel department and lied, and then he lied after, you know, then he'd go to personnel, would say, no, you know, the employee is correct. You can't do this. You can't do that. And, you know, the director of human resources would tell him that. And then he would come out of the meeting and say the director of human resources said, I'm right. And he even came out of one meeting, or I filed a grievance, you know, not being paid for lunch. And I'd been telling him for months, hey, I'm relieving everybody, so I'm not getting a lunch period. And I was okay with that. I would just grab something, I'd be eating it when I was relieving somebody. But after a while, it got to be, and then when I complained, the supervisor, you know, said, you know that I was wrong. And what that was I was the only person. I came in early every day, hours early, and so I left early every day than the rest of the other people. because I came in early to cover a parking lot down in the, early in the morning, because they were doing construction, and about 2 blocks away was this parking. And I put on my activity sheet, no lunch or whatever. So on this one day that set me off on this was, I was supposed to go home at 2:30, work, 8 hours and then 30 minutes for lunch. So it was 2 o'clock. I hadn't had any lunch. And so I was in the office, so I told the supervisor, I said, okay, well, I'm going to time out and leave now. And the supervisor said, no, you can't do that. You have to be here 8.5 hours. And I said, I've already worked 8 hours. I've worked 8 hours. I did not get a lunch. And I said, so I can leave now and I can be paid for my 8 hours. No, you have to stay. And I said, okay, let me get this straight. And let me get this straight. You're saying that I have to sit here now and eat my lunch and then I can go home. Yes. And I said, look. And I tried to explain, I said, okay, I'm just going to file a grievance. Go ahead, Well, just go ahead. And of course, I think I'd won, I forget which grievance that was, but I'd won them all. So that was a Friday. I know it was a Friday because we had a departmental meeting. We had one every 2 or 3 months. And I was a departmental training officer, by the way. So I scheduled in the training, had police officers from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Academy come occasionally, and do different things, different people. Somebody from the DEA to talk about script and that type of stuff, anyway. And to show you too how it was, like the first time when I became departmental training officer for the department, and I scheduled somebody we had 2 hours of training every 2 or 3 months. And with this director of security, who apparently, now I realize, had the same trouble, except he was in earlier stages that Donald Trump has. Donald Trump is just older than he was and more far advanced. So anyway, I became departmental training officer, and I got scheduled a Kansas City, Missouri police officer from the police academy to come in and do a 30-minute or an hour, thing. The officer shows up, and our director of security spends an hour and a half telling us about his plans, which he did on a regular basis. Okay, we're going to get cameras all over the hospital, which we never got, ever. And okay, we're going to have ID tags, and when you walk up to a door, it automatically unlocks the door for you. You won't have to, which we never got. And he just had all these plans, which were good plans, but, you go to administration and say, I don't know, need 100,000 for this, I don't know how much, and they turned him down every time. So anyway, so after that training session, where the police officer maybe had 10 minutes to say something, I told the director of security, I said, from now on, I said at these 2-hour training sessions, or these 2-hour meetings, I said, I'm going to give you 30 minutes. Now, I wasn't even a supervisor at that, or maybe I was. I think I was, supervisor there. Anyway, I said, I'm going to give you 30 minutes, and then the rest of the time will be for training, or for whatever, And he said, okay. And so then I sort of forgot about it. Well, of course, 2 or 3 months later, we have a departmental training, and I didn't say anything to him, and I thought, oh God, it's going to be the same thing. And he comes in and he does his thing for 30 minutes, and he says, Jim doesn't allow me any more than 30 minutes, and then he turned it over to me. So he was a strange, Oh, okay. So on this thing of the lunch, I said, well, I'm going to do a grievance. And the supervisor said, well, go ahead and do one, which was, when somebody does, I don't know how many I'd done, but when I win every time, you shouldn't, you should think about it. So anyway, that was a Friday, and so at the appointed time, 2 o'clock or whatever, we're in the meeting room, and the director of security comes directly from personnel, and he comes in, and we're all there, and he says, Jim, I just talked to the director of human resources. He says we don't have to pay you for that lunch period. I wrote it, by the way, by then, see, I'd written them all down. And when I did my grievance, I had, actually I hadn't written the grievance, but I was going to make them pay me for all the back months, 30 minutes a day that I didn't, that I actually had logged in my activity sheet, no lunch. But anyway, he comes in and he says, and of course I knew that the director of human resources, I knew I was 100% right, and I knew the director of human resources would know that I was 100% right, that you can't work somebody overtime and not pay them, And then he says, and I talked to, I called the lawyers, the labor lawyers for the hospital, and they said I was right. And so we're in a meeting, and I said, Mr. Ross, I said, you didn't talk to the hospital labor, attorney. I said, sure, the hospital labor attorney for this hospital, and there are labor attorneys that work for corporations, and sure, they're going to side, but there isn't, in the entire United States, there's no lawyer, even if he works for a corporation, there isn't one. You can't find one who's going to say that you can work somebody over, whatever. And I said, so I went, I did my grievance, and they paid me back pay, and I put some other stuff when I did the grievance too, which I'd never questioned before, that since I work 8.5 hours, that I can leave, because I always escalated it. When I did a grievance, I never asked for anything unreasonable. When you look at the grievance, it'd be like, well, yeah, this guy is not, all he wants is this. I didn't say I want the entire administration of the hospital fired, or I want the director of the department, I want him fired, or I want them to take him out and flog him. Everything I did was so reasonable that but because of him, the way he handled things, then when I actually wrote the grievance, then I put in that, no, an employee can leave on their 30 minutes for lunch. Time to time out, have to time back in. 30 minutes. Of course, there were Taco Bells and eating places close by, but still, it really wasn't. But I put that in there, and he just, no, you can't do it. And then when he did his part to me, he said, okay, well, you can leave on the 30-minute lunch period, but you have to change out of your uniform and change back in, and of course time in and time out. That was his attempt. And of course and he said, because you'd be arrested for impersonating a police officer if you left here in uniform, which was bullshit. So then when I won the grievance and I won everything, it just happened that they were painting the parking lots, and he came in for that, striping the parking lots. And he came in, and he was there, and he said, so anyway, it became lunchtime, and I said, Mr. Ross, I'm not trying to be a smart ass, but I'm going to run over and pick up some food. Do you want me to bring you back something? And he said, no, Jim, that's okay. That's fine. I'm not hungry. And I said, okay. And I went over. I didn't change out of my uniform, of course, didn't have to, and went over and picked up some food for myself, came back and ate it, and within 30 minutes, and I timed back in or whatever. So, how did I get on that subject? Do you have any idea? I have no idea. Well, that was it. So at the time when I was dealing with Mr. Ross, I didn't intend to mention his name, but it slipped out. So, although I'd mentioned his name before. At the time, I just was, how come this person can't deal with a simple personnel matter? And there's like one time I was walking by his office, and he said, "Oh, Jim, come in." He says, "I just called up so and so to come up, and I'm going to straighten him out." A black guy, by the way. And it wasn't on my shift, so I was there, but it must have been he was going to be coming in for maybe from home or something, I don't know. Because I didn't allow him to like, there was a couple times an investigation of somebody on my shift. There was things like that, and I'd say I will, like, remember one time he said, it was on another shift, but I was acting supervisor over all three shifts at that time because that lieutenant had had a heart attack. And there was, the Mr. Ross said that he goes, I'm going to deal, he's going to deal with this officer on my shift, the one I supervise. And I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, stealing food. And I said, "No, I will take care of this problem." And he said, "Oh, okay." I never let him, once I became a supervisor, because he couldn't handle, he could not handle the simplest thing. So that was the one thing. He couldn't handle a simple thing because he always had to be right. He always had to be the smarter person. And consequently, he just couldn't be, so he couldn't handle those. Then the other thing was lying about everything. We took over, for years at that hospital, we had a lawn company that during the wintertime, when there was snow or ice, we would call them. And now the security might, it might be an hour before they showed up with their backhoe or and the tractor with the blade on it and the things to put the salt out of. Whatever, they would show up, and they did a fantastic job. You could just call them, they'd be there within an hour, maybe less, but no longer than an hour they would show up. So while security, while we were waiting for them to show up, if somebody got stuck someplace or there was a slippery place on the ice, we'd throw some salt on it or sand on it or de-ice, or we'd do a little something, as a temporary thing until they got there. And then they came in, did a fantastic job. All the employees loved us, security, because of the helping them out, The hospital, that was called Hospital Hill. And it was really steep, really steep hill. And it was bad because of extra cold, extra wind, because of this geography. So then we took over snow removal. And there again, Mr. Ross called a meeting of the supervisors. So day shift supervisor, second shift supervisor, me, third shift supervisor, lieutenant. And Mr. Ross, said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to be able to get a brand new patrol vehicle. it's going to be a, four-wheel drive Jeep and whatever. And the way we're getting it is we're going to take over doing snow removal. It hadn't snowed actually bad in like a few years actually. And, he says, the weather's not bad anyway and everything. We're going to, so what do you think? And then he asked the day shift supervisor, oh, great idea, Mr. Ross. Then he asked I was the second, so he asked the third shift supervisor, oh, great idea, Mr. Ross, great idea. Then he asked the lieutenant, great idea, Mr. Ross, wonderful, wonderful, Then he asked me, and I said, it's not a good idea. We can't be doing two things at this, we need to take care of security and safety and blah, 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 and then he starts talking again. But by getting the Jeep, the only way we get the Jeep, the new Jeep, is if we do the snow removal. And it's not going to snow anyway. It won't be bad. And so then he goes, day shift supervisor, great idea, wonderful, something. Then he comes to me, bad idea. And then I told him why. And I said, extra work, and we're not getting extra money for a totally different, bad idea. And so he says, okay, and then he he didn't put out a notice. He then informed us, administration has approved it, we're going to be doing snow removal, and so I know it was probably August, so then I was working second shift, and then the winter hits, no snow, then bang, blizzard, disaster, snow is coming down. I told the other two security officers, I said, you go outside with me and I'll go out and we'll take care of you stay in. And he says, the other officer, Jim, no, it's not fair. I said, no, no problem. I said, you stay inside, take it. He says, no, I'll help out. He said, I'll help out. So we all three go outside. I hear a clickety-click on the radio after a while. And so then I walk over and step in the front door by where the switchboard operator was, because she was our dispatcher too. And I said, did you call? And she says, yeah. And she said, they need you over at admitting. So I walked over to admitting and went over, and the lady in charge of admitting, there was a guy here with a whole pad of prescription pad, writing his own prescriptions out. And I said, where is he now? And she says, well, he went over to pharmacy. So I go over to pharmacy, and there wasn't anybody at pharmacy, but then number 10 door alarm went off, which was right down the hall from pharmacy, administrative exit that, wasn't used by, but it was wired for, an alarm. So I step outside, blizzard, looked like Alaska or Siberia. Guys out in the middle of the street, off the property. Because when you went out that door, that door, there was the sidewalk and the street, and that was like, if somebody go out another door, you'd be in our parking lot. But this person, so I go out the door, and snow was hitting everything. We had on red jumpers for snow removal. I said, sir, can I help you? No. I said, were you trying to get a prescription filled? Yeah. I said, I can help you. Come on over. Just come on over here on the hospital property, And he comes over, and I tell him he's under arrest, put the handcuffs on him, take him inside. Call the police. He had a prescription pad with, of course, that's one of our jobs, security, to make sure that on the nursing units, and this was, of course, he'd been in the emergency room, that doctors and nurses, that they don't leave prescription pads out, so somebody can just come and, But anyway, so police show up, and then the police are like, who are you guys? And I went, security. So anyway, I saw the director of security Monday. And I said, Mr. Ross, see, I told you we can't be doing two things. We have to concentrate on security and safety. And he was happy, because we made an arrest. That was another thing, so. So how did I get on that subject? Oh, the fact, I guess, that he lied, or... Well, I guess the fact that he had these ideas. He had good ideas, but anyway. Well, I guess that's it. Time for me to... I had yesterday was my ex-wife's birthday, and our daughter brought over cake, and my ex-wife and myself are both diabetic, and she brought over ribs and steaks and some other baked potatoes, stuff like that. So anyway, I had a rib a while ago. So what do I need to do today? I still need a whole bunch of people I need to contact and give them the new phone number. I do like, I can't tell you what the difference is. There is a little bit of difference with the Google Fi because it's running, and I can't, well, okay, yeah, the one thing is, like when, like a verification, like I logged into Netflix and put in my new phone number. And with the old service that I had, meant, see, it's still here. I just flip down, and here's the code to confirm, to make sure that was, and it's here. Now, before, when I would do this, when the message would come in, it would pop up, and I would have to keep pulling down. But here, I just go there, and right there it is, still, lined up or whatever. That might be a change to Android, more so than I also like, for some reason, down here at the bottom, don't know if you can see that, it says, it just says Google Fi at the bottom. It just says it on that, it doesn't say it on the rest of the pages or stuff, but, if we get I still would like to have that Motorola stylus. Yeah, I think it's down in price too. But I just bought this, and I've given away to my kids and everything. I would like to have the stylus, but also that's what was the Google Pixel 3a XL. That has unbelievable, it's not unbelievable cameras, it's unbelievable Google software that takes the cameras and just, it's software apparently. Google's able to do it with their software that they write, so I think it's a Pixel 3a XL. If we get this here in the United States, stimulus check for $1,200 again. I don't know. I just got this cell phone. I just like the idea of the stylus. I know I would never use it, but I think the Pixel 3, no, actually I need to go with the iPad that I talked about getting before. I've got to use my head here and get the iPad. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.